So there's this amazing story from early on in the Gospel according to John. It introduces us to Jesus really before he's begun his public ministry. He's shown up there by the River Jordan as he's baptizing people. He's beginning to first call some followers, but we haven't seen much action from Jesus or much teaching from Jesus. He's still sort of a newcomer, an unexpected thing new on the scene, but he's invited to a party. He's invited to a wedding, and it seems like he's his mom's plus one. There we're introduced to Jesus' mom is there, and Jesus and his followers have been invited along as guests, presumably, to this wedding to celebrate, right? So are these friends of Jesus? Are they childhood acquaintances? Are they second cousins or relatives who all grew up together somewhere in Galilee? As Jesus an honored guest, as a new, up-and-coming rabbi? Who knows? But Jesus has been invited to the party. And you might well know this story. It's one of those really well-known moments where the wine gives out at the wedding. Who knows whose mistake this is? They didn't know how many people to plan for, and the guests drink too much and they run out, or the couple is of modest means and they had only arranged for a small amount and everybody drinks it, or who knows what the cause is, but they run out of wine, and somehow Jesus' mother becomes aware of it. And she turns to her son and is convinced that Jesus can do something about it. Help them, she says. You do something about this. And Jesus' response is kind of standoffish at first, right? Woman, what do you want me to do here? My hour hasn't yet come, right? I can't help. I shouldn't help right now because reasons, right? Because it's not righteous. It's not the right time. This is not the moment for me to make my first public appearance, or dealing with this kind of situation isn't what I've come for. All sorts of reasons you could fill in the blank that are all fine, respectable reasons, maybe even well thought out, solid reasons, all part of the divine plan. I'm not supposed to be using my power as the divine Son of God for parlor tricks, right? What do you want me to do, Mom? This is just a wedding. Nobody's going to die because they didn't get enough booze at the party. But Jesus' mom, it's almost like she knows him better. She knows him deeper and sort of knows that deep down Jesus is going to care about people more than all of his list of reasons or plans for why he shouldn't help. And he tells the waitstaff, he tells the caterers at the wedding, you do whatever my son tells you to do. And I imagine with a sigh or this knowing look of, Mom's right, who knows, Jesus tells the help at the party, take these stone jars that happen to be laying around and fill them with water. I mean, these are big, giant jars of water. They fill them up with water, and they take some of it to the MC, the steward, the DJ at the wedding reception, the person who's conducting all the ceremonies. And John tells this story like while we were looking the other way, almost like a magician's trick. While you're distracted, while you were looking the other way, a miracle has happened without anybody being aware. The water has turned to wine. The way John tells it, the steward tasted the water, which had become wine, that nobody saw that moment happening. He tastes it, and he says, this is the best wine I've had. Everybody else serves the good wine and then the inferior wine after everybody's drunk already and won't notice the difference. But you've saved the best for last. What an amazing story. But I want to ask us to consider for a moment what makes it amazing. Because it's tempting for us to just get excited by the wow factor, to be excited by, oh, a miracle, isn't that cool, that Jesus does a stunt or does some kind of a trick. But honestly, tricks and magic and illusions, those are a dime a dozen. As cool as it might sound to say you can turn water into wine, that's not as big a deal as you might think, right? See? It's possible to do tricky-looking things that wow people, whether it's through simple, basic trick photography in a video or whatever divine power you might have if you're the Son of God. I'm not sure that the take-home is, wow, isn't Jesus cool? He can turn water into wine. I think the amazing thing for us to hold on to is that he would. This is just the simple effect of a couple of drops of food coloring in a clear glass and smart camera placement. So you don't notice that there's already coloring waiting to be added to a glass here. That's not very impressive at all, is it, huh? What Jesus does isn't just, wow, he can do a cool trick. But that Jesus, even though he's got a list of reasons why it's not the right time for him to begin being known as a wonder worker, he does it anyway. All those reasons aside, he cares about people more than his plans. He cares about people more than some set of abstract principles even, or timing, or the divine, destiny. Instead, Jesus sees people in front of him and knows that he has the ability to bring joy to a situation rather than to make things more miserable. He has the ability to spare them humiliation or embarrassment, being known as the people who didn't prepare enough wine, or maybe were too poor to have enough for their wedding guests, or just didn't have a good handle on the math of how much they should have for everybody. Whatever the reason, Jesus spares them the embarrassment, the humiliation, the suffering of their reputation. Even though also it's not a life or death situation. I mean, it's easy to get excited and amazed at the power of Jesus when he raises the dead, when he calls out dramatically, Lazarus, come out of the grave, and there comes the dead man. That's amazing, and clearly it's urgent. It's a matter of someone is dead and can be brought back to life, or someone who is blind and then they can see, but this isn't about somebody's health. This is about a party that's already been going on so well they've drunk through all the wine they had, and yet Jesus is willing to bring people more joy, more fully to life than they were without him. The thing that amazes me about this story, the more I hear it, the older I get, is not that Jesus did a cool trick, because now we can do cool tricks that make it look like you turn water into wine. It's not about the wow factor of the special effects, to be very honest. It's that Jesus is willing to set aside all the reasons he might have for why it's not my time, and to say other people matter more. And let's be clear. The moment Jesus steps onto the public scene and comes to be known as someone who can do amazing, miraculous things, he knows, in a sense, a clock starts ticking. A timer starts going toward when his life story will take him to a cross. The quicker he becomes a celebrity, the quicker he becomes a threat to the respectable religious people who don't like what he has to say. The quicker he comes on the scene, the quicker people are going to be to latch onto him as just their meal ticket, or someone who can put on a show and not listen to what he actually has to say. In other words, if Jesus starts his public ministry and starts getting known for being the guy who can turn water into wine, that's the kind of thing that's going to make people not listen to what he has to say, but instead just come for a show. And Jesus, knowing all those things, brings that hesitation. Mom, this isn't the right time. This isn't my hour. Once I begin, I'm headed toward a journey that will take me toward a cross. Do you want that to start early, Mom? Do you want me to be headed toward a cross that much earlier? Do you want the things to come to a crisis that much sooner? Because now I'm out there in the world. And even though he doesn't say any of that, you know that's what's going on in the background. And Jesus knows it too. And yet, with the pleading look from his mother, and the awareness that other people could be spared suffering, even if it's not life or death suffering, but spared social humiliation, Jesus does what he can for the sake of good. And even though sometimes we like to imagine that God's plan, whatever God's plan is like set in stone, like decreed from eternity, this shall happen and this shall happen, and no, there shall be no changes, Jesus shows us a really different picture of who God is, doesn't he? Jesus shows us a God who may have good, well reasons. Here's how the timing should go, but okay, the situation calls for adapting, for change, for, okay, I wasn't planning on a miracle today, but I care more about human beings. I care more about showing love for these people, these neighbors of mine. These are the people, and this is the situation I have been presented with. How will I respond with love? How will I respond to bring more joy rather than less? And when Jesus is forced into that situation, when Jesus steps into that situation and sees that's the choice, rather than walking away saying it's not the right time, it's not going according to my plan, Jesus turns water into wine. I want to say, for you and for me, that amazing part of this story is exactly what we also have the capacity to be a part of as Jesus followers as well. I don't have the ability to actually make water into wine. I can do water into purple water with a little bit of food coloring. I can do water into lemonade with the right packet of flavoring, sugar, and maybe some lemon juice. I can do that stuff. I can't do the miracle. But what you and I can do is what's really amazing about this story. It's the willingness to let our plans or even our good list of reasons why we should or shouldn't do something be set aside when it comes to how can we show the love of God to people. How can we, when we cross somebody else's path, be a presence to bring joy rather than humiliation? How can we be there to bring people more fully to life rather than leave them in misery or bad reputation or to suffer? The question so often you and I are faced with is, are our plans and our lists of reasons for what we will or won't do, are those more important to us than actual people? Over and over and over again, you and I are going to be placed in situations where things aren't going the way we had imagined. Things aren't going according to our life plan or the script we maybe had worked out for ourselves. My goodness, the last 2 years now of life in a pandemic has been an ongoing exercise, and this isn't going to go the way you expect it to go. And instead of digging in our heels and saying, no, this is how it will go, this will be the only thing I can do, I won't help, I won't respond, I won't care, I won't do, we're called upon again and again and again to be flexible. Here's the situation. Here's how we can best bring other people more fully to life or help protect other people and help preserve their lives. Isn't it worth setting aside our plans or how things are supposed to go to be willing to care for our neighbors? When we have the chance, either I will continue my life plan the way it's supposed to go, or I can be generous to somebody else. Sometimes we're going to be called upon. Take the money you were going to spend on something for yourself and help the person who has a need that's more urgent right in front of you, because loving people is going to be more important than holding on to our profits or maintaining our life plans. The real wonder to me in this story is not that Jesus can do a cool trick, which we can at least approximate by video these days. The thing that amazes me about Jesus is that he's willing to use divine power to bring transformation, to do this amazing, miraculous thing when he had a good list of reasons why he shouldn't. And because he's willing to love people in the situation that's been handed to him rather than sticking to the plan the way he's envisioned it. May you and I have that same graceful flexibility, the ability to read a situation, whatever is in front of us this week, and when there are points where things don't go the way you anticipate them, instead of freezing up and going, no, things must go according to my script, to be able to respond with grace and with love. May you and I be people who, like Jesus, are able to love people more than our best laid plans, knowing that God has loved you and me more than any script written down on paper. That's the conversation we're having on Sunday. Come and be a part of it. See you Sunday.